Hey YouTube, Shugun Shobi here with another Sunday Ramble. And this time I'm actually going to do a Ramble review of the Legend of Zelda, A Link Between Worlds for the Nintendo 3DS. Now, this is going to be just me talking. There's no visuals. I don't have a capture card. I couldn't record anything. I'm not going to steal other people's work. So you're going to look at this pretty picture and listen to me talk, because that's fun, apparently. So go ahead, minimize the window, go do what you want, and just listen, because there's nothing visual to see whatsoever. Anyway, I'm going to structure this just kind of free roaming. I'm going to just go by some categories and talk about it and such like. So, long ramble short, I really like this game. A little bit of history. A Link to the Past is my second favorite Zelda game of all time. The first being the Wind Waker, because I love Wind Waker lots, and the HD is very pretty. Anywho, going into that, I was super duper excited for this game. I don't know why I did that. That was really weird. Anyway, super duper excited for this game. A direct sequel to my second favorite Zelda game. And my favorite Zelda game already had sequels, even though I didn't like them as much. Was phenomenal. And I'm a huge fan of the 2D Zelda games. Not that I think the 3D ones are bad. Wind Waker's my favorite, so obviously I don't think that. But there's something about the 2D Zelda games that just really charm me. I don't know if it's the fact that they're usually simpler. And that kind of gravitates towards me because I kind of like simple in games. But I don't know. But something about it just really clicked with me, and I do love A Link to the Past. Now, that being said, this one might actually trump Link to the Past for me, which is actually really difficult to do. It won't trump Wind Waker, because Wind Waker had this absolutely fantastical charm about it that I adore. But it could easily... I'm going to wait a little bit and let it settle, and see how it ranks in a couple months. But it could easily trump A Link to the Past for me. So without further ado, the story and characters, I'm going to lump this together just because it's a Zelda game. In terms of story and characters, story trumps over characters, and characters there just really isn't too much to talk about. New additions to the game include the world of Lorule, which is basically the Dark World from A Link to the Past, just not as dark. As far as I know, in the actual story itself, they don't necessarily say that the Lorule is the Dark World. The music kind of implies it, but given how I don't think the Dark World would have turned into a kingdom, and then the kingdom would have fallen, in that span of time, I think it was like 300 years between A Link to the Past and this one. I don't really recall off the top of my head, but... I think it's a completely different world altogether. Anyway, Lorule is the kingdom opposite of Hyrule in a different dimension. Hyrule, Lorule, get it? Haha, funny. And Lorule is basically a mirrored version with everyone kind of has their personality switch, like the blacksmith's kind of lazy-ish. Everyone's really angry. Kakariko Village is turned into a land of thieves. And things like that. So it's actually pretty interesting how they kind of laid everything out. So basically, story-wise, we have this wizard named Yuga, an inhabitant of Lorule, who basically wants to free Ganon, take his power, and be an evil butt munch. And I mean, it's a common story for Zelda games, but I don't want to get into a whole lot of spoiler territory. Just in case anyone listening doesn't want to play it. So I'm going to kind of avoid things, but there's a lot of twists and turns toward the tail end of this game that I think are really interesting, actually, and it doesn't redeem any of the villains whatsoever, but I mean, it kind of redeems one of them. But anyway, like I said, everyone has a counterpart. Yuga is basically that world's Ganon. and he's basically reviving Ganon and fuses with Ganon and is just all around evil. He's a bad person. Zelda has a counterpart named Hilda, which was graciously pointed out to me that Hilda and Zelda are the ants in Sabrina the Teenage Witch. So that was a mind blown moment there. But anyway, so Princess Hilda and Princess Zelda. Zelda's captured. Obviously, have to save Zelda, save the 7 sages' descendants, and free everyone, basically. Destroy Yuga, all that fun stuff. So, not going too far into it. Story-wise, I really dug the story. It was simple, classic in a sense. When I play Zelda games, I don't usually go all out for a detailed story. Zelda stories are usually quite basic. But I really like what they did with this one. The twists and turns were things that I particularly wasn't expecting, and then as you start saving the sage descendants, it starts kind of unfolding through these cutscenes. And you start to kind of figure out what's going on, and then once you get to Lower Rule Castle, everything kind of pieces together, and you're like, oh crap. But that being said, it ends on a nice happy note, and I really enjoyed the ending to it as well. So the story won me over. The characters I really like. One of the new characters, Ravio. I frigged that up pretty hardcore. But anyway, he's really cool. He's this little kind of... he looks like Nabbit from New Super Mario Bros. Wii U 2, whatever. And he looks a lot like that. Was it... Iwata, I think, said that the two teams were working closely off of each other for New Super Mario Bros. And then A Link Between Worlds, so they might have drawn inspiration from one another. But he's really cool. He runs a shop out of your house, and you rent items. This kind of merges into the gameplay section of this Ramble. You rent items instead of finding them in dungeons. Like usually you would go into a dungeon, you'd find the bow, you'd find the bomb bag, you would do something to get the bomb bag, or a seed bag, or a boomerang, or anything like that, just typical Zelda items. And so it's kind of interesting how it plays out in the fact that you can rent the items and have every single item almost that you can obtain in the game at the very beginning, before you even step foot in an actual dungeon. You can have all of the items. Sand's one of them, and the sand rod, because one of the sages has a sand rod, actually. So it's really interesting to be able to kind of go around this world with all the items at your disposal. Before you even step foot in a dungeon, you can get a lot of the heart pieces. And there's another little quest in this game, finding the little something. They're little squid thingies, and they're really adorable. I kind of want a plushie of one. But anyway, if you find, there's 100 of them, 50 in high rule, 50 in low rule, and as you get them, you can upgrade the weapons. But you have to buy the weapons. At a later point in the game, you can purchase the weapons from Ravio instead of renting them. The perk being that when you have them rented, if you die at any point, that means if you get knocked out without having a fairy with you, you get a game over, Ravio's little bird thing swoops in and takes all of your items back. So you have to go back and spend the money to re-rent them. So basically, if you rent all the items, make sure you don't die. But if you purchase them, they're yours to keep, so you don't have to worry about losing them. So that's, well, the wiki has a huge spoiler right in this picture right here. But anyway, he actually has an identity that's really cool, revealed at the end of the game. So I really dig him, and I like the rental concept. It's really neat in the way that it just kind of lets you explore everything. And I think that's really, really cool. Another thing I thought really interesting about the gameplay mechanics is that you could easily go through this game missing things and probably not even notice. There's there's level 3, but 2 Master Sword upgrades. you find by getting the Master Ore, and then you take it to the blacksmith in Hyrule. He'll fix it up to level 2, take that sword to the blacksmith in Lorule, and then he'll go, oh, I can make this better because I'm from Lorule. Yeah. And if you find 2 more pieces of Master Ore, then you can make it level 3, which makes it significantly stronger, and it's all gold and pretty. And then there's items scattered around Lorule dungeons, like the Blue Mail, the Hyrulean Shield, the Pegasus Boots, I think, the Titan Mitts. Not the Pegasus Boots. Pegasus Boots you get from the guy. But the Titan Mitts are in the Sand Dungeon, I think. So there's multiple items that you could actually miss. Like, they don't trap you into a room and force you to get this item. You have to do something in the room to get the item, and it's not required whatsoever. I missed the Hyrulean Shield on my first playthrough of Turtle Rock. So I find that really interesting too. At the end of the game, you could technically not have all the items, and you might not even know. And I think that's very fascinating. And the non-linear fashion of this game, I think, is really incredible and very unique. The game kind of shoves you in the direction of starting with the Thieves' Hideout, but it's not actually required to start with the Thieves' Hideout, but you do need to do that to get the Sand Rod, which is actually a necessary item. But you can do this in any particular order, and I really, really dig that. We haven't seen that in a Zelda game for years, and I think it's really cool, and it kind of makes no 2 playthroughs exactly the same, because, I mean, you could start at the Tower of Hera to get the medallion, and someone else could start at the Gale House, I think it was, to get the other one. Gale something. So it's really, really interesting. And once you get to Lorule, there's 7 dungeons to kind of wander through, and you can do those in any order too. And I think that was a really fascinating concept that we haven't seen in so long in Zelda, and Zelda's been so linear lately. Skyward Sword was linear beyond belief. And having this ability to kind of play through the game multiple times in different orders is really great. And like I said, with the items situation, you could almost make different challenges by limiting yourself on certain things. There's people who, I mean, obviously there's always the typical don't collect heart pieces challenge and use only 3 hearts. But on top of that, there's only use rented items. You don't buy any items, obviously. To do the dungeons in a certain order. Not use certain items. Since the game kind of sets it up to where you only need certain items for certain dungeons. So, like, one dungeon early on is labeled with a bomb. Then, obviously, you need the bombs to complete that dungeon. But to not use any other items besides the ones necessary to complete the game. So, you don't need the boomerang at all throughout the entire game. So, not using the boomerang, things like that. And this game sets up challenges quite nicely. And I think that's a really unique kind of take on everything, and something that's just really, really cool. And obviously, if we're talking about gameplay, we have to talk about the wall merging, becoming a painting. It was really weird when they announced that. I thought that was a really strange sort of mechanic. But actually experiencing it, it worked so well. It's a vital part of the game. It's not one of those little gimmicks that they throw in that they hardly ever use. It is a huge, huge piece of the game, and there's many, many heart pieces and many of the little squid guys that you can't get to without using the wall merge. So I think they pull it off really well. There's a couple places where it got kind of frustrating because if you're walking through the wall and you hit like a lamp or a ledge or like a rocky cliff, then you couldn't progress any further. And obviously they set that up for boundary purposes. But it got frustrating sometimes to think that you were on level and you could get there, and then it turns out you couldn't. But I think that's kind of the charm of it too. So I really liked the wall merge. I thought the couple boss battles that they implemented it in, particularly the final boss, was really well done. And I don't want it to be a mainstay in the Zelda series. Obviously, I don't think we'll ever see it behind or besides this game. But I got really used to it really fast, and I really dug it. So I definitely enjoy that aspect of the game as well. Another new change is the removal. There we go. Of the items, in a sense. Everything, bows, bombs, things that were normally numbered and limited, are now unlimited, in a sense. Since everything, your wall merge and your item use works off this purple, like, magic bar sort of thing. And it refills gradually. There are jars you can find that refill it automatically, but they're kind of scattered around and they're not really that plentiful. And so every time you use an item, it takes off a portion of the magic gauge. So you can fire the arrow like 4 times or something before it has to refill. And I thought that was really cool. It was definitely, I think, a move to make the game more accessible to new players. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But it just kind of made the game flow a little bit better. You didn't have to worry about farming for items if you were low on arrows or bombs. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed not really having to worry and think about inventory levels and things like that. It was more or less just to sit back and enjoy the game. And I thought that was kind of the beauty of the gameplay of this one. So I enjoyed that. Gameplay-wise, everything I felt was absolutely top-notch, which lets me move into presentation. Like I said, I loved A Link to the Past, and I have absolutely no doubts whatsoever that the core of this game, I remember reading that it was either Aonuma or Iwata, I don't remember, I think it was Aonuma, said that he wanted to recreate, maybe it was even Miyamoto, I don't remember, to be honest, that they, after the success of Ocarina of Time 3D, that recreating A Link to the Past in 3D was something that they wanted to do. And I have no doubts in my mind that this project started as that. Everything is recreated so, like, near perfect. And granted, there is a years, like I said, I think there was like 300 years difference in time between A Link to the Past and Link Between Worlds. So the changes that do happen are changes that are actually believable. The landscape changes are fairly minor, and what has changed could easily change in real life within 300 years, absolutely. And like certain people, or actually roles of said people are like in the same space in Kakariko Village and everything. And the entire world of Hyrule for A Link to the Past was recreated so beautifully for this game that if you were really familiar with Link to the Past, it was really easy to kind of remember where the base of everything was. And I thought that was really unique and a really interesting thing, since we've had sequels. But like Ocarina of Time sequel was in a different land. That was in Termina. And Spirit Tracks was way, way, way in the future. And then Phantom Hourglass was set in a different portion of the land too. So you didn't have that familiarity, and everything was really fresh in those games. Whereas this one, it's more or less the same map in a different sort of presentation. And it just looks really nice. And if you're a fan of A Link to the Past, then this is something that kind of really, really tugs at you with the nostalgia a little bit. And I think they just did a really good job at capturing the world of A Link to the Past, but in a nice new perspective. And the fact that this is a fully 3D game while still using that top-down perspective, they had to tilt everything, I think, 45 degrees. So if you actually look at this in a 3D viewpoint, like Link is like slanted and he looks really stupid. So I think that's kind of neat how faithful they were to the presentation from A Link to the Past in A Link Between Worlds. And they did a great job. And speaking of the graphics in general, a lot of people before the game came out were really, really negative on the graphics. I'm not big on graphics. I think a game can be purely enjoyable based on its story and characters and gameplay alone. Granted, it has to be visually appealing to a certain extent. Retro games, I think, are absolutely hold up well today in certain regards. But I mean, I don't want to play like a huge RPG with like the original Zelda graphics. That'll take you out of the experience a little bit, but normal 8-bit I think is fine, 16-bit and things like that are fine. But to kind of wrap that up, graphics don't mean a whole lot to me. So everyone was like, "Oh, the graphics are shitty. Everything looks stupid." It was being faithful to its source material, and I can't fault it for that because it did a fantastic job at it. Granted, Link is not purple-haired anymore, or pink-haired anymore. I don't really know what happened with that. I assume it has something to do with the palettes, but I don't know why that was a thing. I thought it would have been cute to have a different hat or a mode that would change Link's hair pink to look like Link to the Past, but unfortunately they didn't do that. I thought it would have been really funny. It's no deal breaker or anything like that, though. So absolutely, I thought the presentation was terrific. The sounds are all remixed versions of A Link to the Past for the most part, and it was really nostalgic playing it, and it's weird having a nostalgic sort of feel while playing a completely new game. And so I really dug that experience as well. And that's really about it, I think. So to kind of wrap things up a little bit, the story and the characters I thought were superb. I really dug the core concept of the story in this game. The new characters they introduced, I think, are really cool. I would love to see Low Rule in some fashion again. A lot of fan theories have started swirling around about Low Rule's connection to other games. Because basically, Low Rule's symbol is an inverted Triforce. It's upside down. And people were connecting that to Demise's sword from Skyward Sword. That Demise could have came from Low Rule and being the essence of Ganon and stuff. That Ganon is technically a Low Rule inhabitant, and lots of really crazy fan theories, and I love it. I really dig fan theories. I think they're great. And really fun to read. So having this sort of mirror of Hyrule is really interesting. And even if I would like to see like Low Rule versions of other generations of Hyrule, just to see if like that realm gets impacted as much as the actual land of Hyrule does. And I mean, timeline placement is perfectly fine. Comes after the Oracle games, if I remember correctly, which come right after Link to the Past. So, really cool. I can't stress that enough. This game was fantastic. If you're a fan of the 2D Zelda games or a fan of Link to the Past, and you haven't played this game yet, do yourself a favor and do so. Hand-holding, if you're new to the Zelda franchise, I think this is actually a pretty nice start. It's not a game that kind of force feeds you information. You don't have one of those like characters that will tell you consistently, go here, go there, go there, go there, go there, hey, listen. But you have a really nice open world to explore, and you can virtually go anywhere at any time. I spent the first like 2 days of playing this game not even doing dungeons. I was just exploring Hyrule and collecting things, and that was really, really cool to me. So, like I said, it doesn't kind of forcibly push you in a certain direction, but there are options there. There's the hint glasses, so you can use play coins to get hints about what to do. So if you're new to the franchise and you need things like that, they are there available for you. But unlike a lot of the more recent Nintendo games, it's not forcibly holding your hand, and I think they balance it off really, really well. So props to them on that, definitely. So I really like the way that this was presented, displayed. The 3D is phenomenal in this game. A lot of the dungeons are multi-tiered, and a lot of the times you can actually see the lower tier below you. And the 3D looks absolutely gorgeous for that. Thieves' Hideout, in particular, was like that in a lot of places. Low Rule Castle has a couple places like that. And I forgot what it was. Turtle Rock has a couple places like that, but it ends up looking really nice with the 3D. So it still hurts your eyeballs, but the 3D is absolutely worth checking out on this game, at least for a little bit. So the story and the characters were great. The presentation was great. The 3D was actually great for once. I see no really huge faults in the game whatsoever, except for it is relatively short. It's pretty easy. I 100%ed it within 2 weeks, and that was actually pretty slow compared to a lot of people. So it is relatively short, but being the classic 2D style Zelda game, a lot of those aren't really all that long. And I never really felt too challenged. A couple of the heart pieces are absolutely a pain in the butt. The Octorok baseball game and the foot race are both really obnoxious to get, but I never really felt too challenged by it. So if you really want a challenge, this might not be a great game for you, but there is a hero mode after you beat the game once. So that might be more up your alley. So the options are there, but like I said, if you're new to the franchise, don't be kind of turned away by everyone saying that it doesn't hold your hand. It doesn't, but the options are there that are certainly helpful if you do need the help. So I wouldn't necessarily write it out completely just yet. But like I said, this could easily make my top 3 Zelda games of all time. Like I said, Wind Waker and Link to the Past are up there. And I really dug this. I can't wait to see where the franchise goes from here. I'm kind of really looking forward to Hyrule Warriors. I know that's not an actual installment in the franchise, but I love Dynasty Warrior games. So that being set in one of my favorite game franchises absolutely has me excited. So I can't wait to see that and what else the Zelda franchise has in store. So if you're on the fence about this game, it definitely gets my recommendation. Like I said, probably one of my favorite Zelda games, and I don't have too many complaints. I definitely enjoyed it. So next week's Ramble is currently unspeculative. I don't know if that was a word, but if you have any topics for next week's Ramble, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. And if you played A Link Between Worlds so far, let me know what you think. Looking forward to seeing if anyone else agrees with me. So thanks for listening, take care, and have a great one. Bye.